Preston Leinenbach for Otters TV. Pleasure to be joined by Dan Egierski of 97.7 WREF ESPN Radio. Of course, you probably have heard him here locally with his afternoon show All About Sports, as well as covering USI athletics during the collegiate athletic year. Dan, pleasure to be joined by you here. And
thanks, Preston. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Always enjoy coming to Bosse Field.
Yeah, it's been a weird year. There's no doubt about it, and unfortunately, we have to do things a little bit different with no games actually being played on the field. But for you, covering sports as long as you have, has this been the craziest year in your career?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, just without a doubt. I mean, you go from day to day not knowing what to expect, and we're getting ready for what we hope to be a football season coming up here in about a month. And you talk to a coach and you get three different responses from three different coaches as to whether there's going to be a fall sports season. But it's just been incredible, and some adversity that's obviously set in. But I think people have done a really good job here in our area of dealing with it and not having any sports to follow.
Yeah, you've just been recently starting up your preview shows for the high school football season. Is there a sense of there will be a football season, or if not?
Well, that was the thing too. It's like last week I was talking to a couple of the coaches in Evansville, and one of them said, we're going to have football come hell or high water. And then the next one you talk to is like, well, I think maybe the first time that somebody tests positive, that's going to probably be the end of it. Then you talk to these area coaches, and they're all pretty much optimistic. So football coaches obviously look at things a little bit maybe more positive than others, but a majority of the coaches that I've talked to feel pretty good about at least it starting. Now, whether it's going to be completed might be another story.
Yeah, as for professional sports, and especially the four major sports, they all are starting to hopefully get their seasons going here this year in 2020 with all their different safety precautions in place. But here locally, I mean, what are those kind of safety precautions, especially with the high school football players now that they've been in conditioning and practice the last few weeks?
Well, they have, and I mean, there's a certain protocol, the guidelines that have been established not only by the state but the National Football Federation, and so these athletic directors, I mean, whether you're doing football or cross country or golf, tennis, or volleyball, there's a certain set of standards before you even practice. You come to the school by yourself, you leave, and again, I think there's been a little bit of a delay. They were hoping to get phase 2 started this week, at least for football, and you can, wear shoulder pads and helmets, but that's been delayed a week. And then now, too, with regard to some of the other sports, as far as, possible contact. So everybody's progressing at a really slow rate, but I think talking to a lot of the coaches and a lot of the athletes, they're doing whatever they can because, again, a lot of these kids didn't have an opportunity to compete in the spring. They don't want that same fate to come their way this fall, so they're taking every precaution they can to make sure they at least get their season started and hopefully get it completed.
Right. And for our fans who don't know, Dan was the Evansville Otters broadcaster in that inaugural season, 95 as well as 96. And I just want to start out first, 95 got to work with Bob Buck. Second year in 96, you worked with Dan Edwards. But first off, especially that inaugural season, what was that like getting to broadcast the Otters in their first year in Evansville?
Well, Preston, it was pretty awesome, and I was really honored because at that time I was working for a gentleman named Larry Aiken, who was a self-promoter. I mean, the guy had a great vision as to what would work. He brought in a lot of different shows and concerts and things in Evansville. That was his business, but he also owned the radio station WGBF at the time. And when he got wind of the fact that professional baseball was coming back to Bosse Field, he was at the forefront of it, and he wanted his radio station to be a part of it. And so, there was negotiations going on with the Otters and, to find a home for radio, and it all worked out where we were able to get the contract to do the games that first year and then certainly the second year. And Bob Buck and I worked together in year one, and then, like you said, it was Dan Edwards coming up in year 2. But it was just phenomenal because I was back in, I was here in college and, would watch the triplets play. Well, then after, certainly they departed town, I think this area was just starving for professional baseball. And when the Independent League and the Otters became, in existence, it was great. Boots Day obviously was the manager of that first team, and Bob Kipper was the pitching coach. J.R. Seymour certainly on that staff, and the players that Boots brought in were good guys. I traveled with the team on road trips and got to know those guys outside of playing baseball, their personal lives, and it was a lot of work. I think 90 games in 96 days, whatever it was, but it was a lot of fun traveling with those guys and certainly doing the games.
And how long have you been here in the Evansville area covering Evansville sports?
1986.
Okay. So, like you said, you kind of were catching you had witnessed the end of the triplets era coming in and going into the Otters era. But for you, especially going back, like I said, that 95 season, 96 season, any favorite memories or favorite calls, games that you broadcasted those years?
Well, I don't know if there was specific games. I just remember the first game here, and Bosse Field was packed. And I remember, Ron McGill was the guy that got to throw out the first pitch for the Evansville Otter organization. They played Richmond that night. They lost that game, but then came back the next night and won. And so, I think my memories were just maybe not specifically about games, but just being around Boots Day and Bob Kipper and J.R. Seymour. And then the players, again, they taught me a lot about the game. And I think probably my favorite memories were just after games and going out with Boots and Bob and JR and just sitting around and listening to those guys talk baseball stories. I mean, how good is that? Yeah. Two professional baseball players, and then J.R. Seymour knows an awful lot about the game as well. And so those were my memories, and the fact that JR taught me how to play golf. So on road trips, during the day you'd get up in the morning and there was nothing to do, and JR and I would go find some golf courses and go play golf during the day, and then you'd do a baseball game at night. And then you go out with those guys at the end of the night and get something to eat and just talk some baseball. So those were my memories, just being around professional baseball players.
And compared to now, how has the broadcasting technology changed?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, before you were like, okay, it was on a phone line. You were making sure that phone line was at the ballpark when you got there. And some of the places, where you'd go early in those years, they wouldn't have facilities. I mean, I can't remember. I think it was Zanesville, Ohio. And, you call ahead and you talk to the organization or a guy in your position at with the organization. Say, hey, I'm coming with the team. I want to be in the broadcast booth. Well, we really don't have one. You'll sit on a slab of concrete behind the fence, and we hope it doesn't rain. We hope you're not too hot. So, you're basically setting up wherever you can where there's electricity to plug in. But as far as the equipment nowadays, I mean, what sits in your pocket, your phone, is what you can broadcast with radio. So, you're not lugging around big Marty units or equipment to plug into phone lines. It's basically your cell phone, and you plug that into an outlet and put some headsets on, and away you go.
And for our fans, during our normal baseball season, you can hear weekly a lot of our players as well as our coaching staff talk with Dan on his show All About Sports in the late afternoons. And since now we see you at Bosse Field more, either for the high school season, covering high school baseball season, USI as well during their exhibition games. But here as a fan a bit, how has maybe the Evansville Otters changed since that 95-96 season, or even the players on the field and the performance?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think athletes today are better. I mean, no disrespect to those guys back in the mid-'90s, because I think, Jim Miller and Pam Miller, Jim the general manager at the time, and, he knew a lot about the local talent around here. And then obviously, with Boots and Bob and those guys, and, they brought in all their own guys, but, there were some local kids, and, that made it really special, I think, for those guys. But, the athletes today, the way they train year round, it's better baseball. And again, no disrespect to those guys back in the 90s, but, you come here and you're here at Bosse Field, you feel like you're in the dugout with these guys. That's just the stadium here, and the great history of this ballpark. And I know, back in the day they were talking about maybe building something downtown and being affiliated with a professional team, because this facility, wouldn't meet all the different requirements of a professional baseball organization. But I'm certainly glad they still play here, and it's just, I enjoy coming out here, whether I'm watching, high school game, certainly the Otters, the exhibition games that USI has out here. But yeah, it's just a fun place to come and enjoy an afternoon or evening of baseball.
And what's your favorite part to come here as a fan during Otters games? Is it the game? Is it concessions? Is it the beverages?
Well, I think it's probably everything. Because you come here and you've got entertainment during almost each half inning. You've got people that bring concessions to you. Mm-hmm. It's a very well-run organization. Go to the concession stand. You're not sitting out there for very long. And I just think the whole experience. In fact, when I've got family, I mean, they all live out of town. When they come in town, if the Otters are playing, there's a game going on at Bosse Field, I'm bringing them here because, I mean, this is history behind Fenway Park and Wrigley Field. I mean, are you kidding me? Who wouldn't want to see a ballpark like this? And so it's, I enjoy every part of Bosse Field coming, no matter who's out there competing.
And now that you've been you've seen Bosse Field back in 95, 96, and even further back, and now you come here and you kind of see the different renovations that have taken place, the video board, the lights. What kind of reaction do you have to see that it still has its traditional feel, but yet has some of those new upgrades?
Well, I know, and that's just a tribute to everybody that's going to spend time and money, renovating this ballpark. And, again, that was the thing that I missed the most about the Otters and the Frontier League canceling their season this year. The fact that you cannot come here and see the new video board and see all the different things that have done, because, again, this latest line of improvements are things that fans can see. I mean, everything else when the Night of Memories would have all of those fundraisers and you would see things behind the scenes that the normal public cannot see. But when you come here now, when you see the lighting and the video board and all the other improvements that have been made, it's just, again, another shame that we're dealing with what we're dealing with now, and that people cannot come out here and enjoy this and probably have to wait until 2021 to come out here and see it.
Yeah. It's definitely a shame, but hopefully, again, things will get back to normal sooner rather than later. Thankfully, the four major sports will be starting back up here soon and give us some kind of entertainment that we can see on the field.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not really a big NASCAR guy, but you're watching something live or golf, on TV, and so certainly with baseball coming up, and hopefully we have a football and resumption of the NBA and NHL. So, yeah, keep our fingers crossed.
Yep. Dan, I really do appreciate the time, and thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you, Preston. Appreciate it.
For Dan Egierski, I'm Preston Leinenbach. This has been Otters TV.